Good morning everyone, it's Krebsco and David here to talk about our experiences at the EuroGamer Expo over the weekend. EuroGamer took place during Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but we only went down the Friday, Saturday, Sunday just because, well, it's too long, it stretches too long, plus that's the only time that we could find off. Of course, we went down to go check out Company of Heroes 2, the main game of our interest. And yeah, we only really spent probably Friday and Saturday at the EuroGamer. We spent Sunday just doing a quick look at the beginning, just getting some more beta keys, but that was it. When you spend 2 days at the EuroGamer, you've pretty much seen everything. There's no point of going a third or even a fourth day. But I imagine some people would have done so. I could only imagine going to the EuroGamer for 4 days if you had, like, I don't know, developer interviews one day after the other and just all the time. But the only game that we were really interested in is, of course, Code 2. So we're going to be talking about just slightly what we did and also what we got to experience, because we actually got to try out two things. On the Friday, we got to experience the demo, which was public to everyone. And on the Saturday, we got to do the exclusive 2 vs 2 AI on the Moscow map, I believe. And so we're going to be discussing some of the points that we managed to pick up on, and of course you guys actually asked us a lot of questions that we should ask the developers, so namely Quinn, for example, who is the game director for Company of Heroes 2, and also Bobby, which is a community manager, just whatever else we could manage to do. But a lot of these questions, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to actually pass on to you because there is an NDA behind a lot of this stuff. A lot of the things that they told us, we're just simply not allowed to tell you. They told us more than they should have, but of course there's that sort of trust system between the developers and also us. But what we can do is maybe give you, not all the full details, but we can talk about what we're able to, and also give an opinion if we think what your questions were they good or were they bad, so to say. We'll get into more detail about that, but we can't actually talk about specific things that the developers told us, alright? So, David, what do you think about the Expo? Did you like it?
Yeah, I mean, I like the whole thing. It's like, it's very similar to any other gaming event, but it's more accessible. Like, when you walk in, it's like, instantly you can just walk up and play. If there's no queue, it's easy. Even if there's a queue, and you wait, you can just, you know, look around, talk, and get all excited. But I mean, it was like well organized, because we had the plus 18 area, you know, I told you about, and that was perfect because you had massive amounts of people everywhere, and obviously most of them are like below 18. That's why it's like I thought it was a relief, because once I walked into like plus 18 area, there was like less crowd, and it was just easier to move around. The only thing I was like missing was like clear directions, because once I walked around for like an hour, I knew where everything is. But when you walk in for the first time and you try to find something,
yeah, where
and
is everything?
you're in a hurry. Like I was looking for COH for the when I walked in for the first day, I was like, where's COH? And I walked all around the freaking place, and it was right at the end.
At the very back. Company of Heroes 2 was literally like right at the very back. Funnily enough, there was, yeah, as I was speaking about, there was an 18 and over section, which was really nice because it did separate the kids out from the older people, and I suppose, yeah, it was just good because you were with people your own age, right? And Company of Heroes 2 was, of course, in the 18 and over area, and so was many of these games that people are looking forward to nowadays in the 18 and over area. However, you did have, like, you know, the Nintendo DS games and SimCity 4 and the under 18s and such, but whatever. We're going to be talking about Company of Heroes 2 here. It was literally right at the very back. Company of Heroes 2 actually had the second largest booth out of all the booths out there, and the largest one was, of course, held by Call of Duty Black Ops 2.
But you have to say how annoying it freaking was being right next to them.
I don't know. Personally, I didn't really care. I didn't really care that much. But you guys were always complaining because they were really, really loud. Like they had this big screen television setup.
No, it's not that big screen. They had the huge speakers facing exactly our direction. Whenever we tried to talk, you were like.
Yeah. I feel sorry for the people that were actually next to the speakers. They must have actually like suffered some sort of hearing loss. But But yeah, let's discuss about what we actually did. So the Friday we went down. The first thing we, of course, wanted to do was get straight to Company of Heroes 2. That was like, we disregarded every single game. We went straight for Company of Heroes 2.
Yeah, and you've been sent to the queue.
Yeah, and there was so many computers set up. There's like 32 computers set up. Every single one was in use. There's a small queue, but the nice thing about it, and Bobby was actually explaining this to us, is that it was the second largest booth. 32 computers, most out of every single computer setup out there, and so they had a shortish demo, so people could actually go in, play the demo for, I don't know, 15-20 minutes, and then jump out. And so there was a very small queue, and that was really, really nice. And but yeah, we managed to play the demo pretty much straight away. And I don't know, I enjoyed it, but actually maybe we should start off with describing like what it was. So the demo was actually from E3, as Bobby was describing it. So that was back in June or something, around that time. And so it's a little bit of an older build, and it doesn't actually reflect on everything that was possible of the game, because Bobby was actually describing like, oh, you can't actually blow up the ice in this demo. You can't do certain things, you know, you couldn't build units, you couldn't have like HQs and stuff. You had to work with what units you had. So almost think of it like a campaign game. That was sort of like what the demo was. It's supposed to be quick and to show you what the game was all about. So what we actually did notice, and we were playing the Soviets, and I'm sorry, and I should actually mention this right now, I'm really sorry there's no actual footage of the game. We simply weren't allowed to actually record any footage.
There's one photo.
We have one photo. We have one photo. You guys are probably going to see this.
They allowed us to do it.
You guys are probably going to see this. There's one photo of the Company of Heroes logo and just like some two computers. It's just, that was the only thing we could do. We could only take like still shots from a faraway distance. We weren't allowed to record any gameplay footage because it reflects gameplay from an old version of the game, and so they don't want this actual like gameplay trailers and gameplay footage coming out where it reflects a bad state of the game. That's not going to be the final version. Plus, they need to come out with their own gameplay trailer, alright? So we played the demo, and we were playing as the Soviets, and of course we had a few combat engineers and also conscript squads, and all we had to do was essentially just move on into this sort of town that was defended by the Germans. They had MGs and what was the Volksgrenadiers or Grenadiers? I can't even remember.
No, they're Grenadiers.
Grenadiers, right? And we just have to basically kill them. It was as simple as that.
Actually,
Capture
they
the
were
town.
Panzer Grenadiers.
Maybe it was. I wasn't even paying attention to that, which is a little bit
They were called
embarrassing.
Panzer Grenadiers because I specifically checked, because the icon over there was two types. One of them had an icon over their head looking like normal Grenadiers, and then other had icon looking like Storm Grenadiers, the full one.
Right.
Like
Okay.
the full triangle. And they were called Panzer Grenadiers.
Okay. Well, what we did, we had to just attack the village, and it was as simple as that. Just kill the stuff. And so, you know, you came out from flanking directions. You got to see the whole game that everybody's been talking about into effect here. You can see the true sight system, which I have to say right now, there's no hindrance about the true sight system at all. I'm not sure how David feels about it, but like, for me, I almost didn't even recognize that there was a true sight system. Fair enough, you couldn't see behind a building, you couldn't see behind smoke, but it didn't feel like, oh, it was like, oh, something impairing you, like it was a disability or a handicap or something like that.
Yeah, but then I read it on one of the forums, someone actually said true sight couldn't really be checked because it was all scripted to be in front of you. And you weren't really worried about the flank. But imagine if you drive your tank happily and then freaking AT guns behind you cannot even see it, or rifles with stickies. Or I mean, there's no rifles, but anything like that. You won't be able to see anything sneaking up on you. So it may be or it may not.
Well, I mean, the demo was only meant to be, it was like an old state of the game. It was only supposed to show you like, I don't know, this is a game, this is what it's about, right?
Yeah.
It didn't actually reflect, you know, everything what the game is going to be, because fair enough, it was a bit scripted. Like, if you tried to go on the outside of the map, you couldn't actually go that far, and the true sight system wouldn't even work on the outside of the map, so it was just all fog of war. So I suppose it was a little bit scripted to some extent, but it did show a little bit of the true sight system, and from what I got to actually experience, I don't think it was a hindrance that much, and it's going to be a little bit interesting to see how this works in the actual gameplay when the game comes out. But what else was there? We could jump over fences. There was heavy snowdrift, so if we wanted to try to go through snow, our men would start wading through it.
You were able to use Flamer, which was great.
Yeah, the flamethrowers. Everyone's always about the flamethrowers. Like, wow, the graphics of the flamethrowers is so cool.
Yeah,
and
the
yeah,
building keep burning.
yeah, it was really nice. I don't think the buildings collapsed though, because
They do. Yeah. When you left, I was sat down with the guys, and I was just trying out some stuff, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna
building.
collapse this building, and they collapsed. Only the church was
Alright, okay.
uncollapsible. I think it was unscripted. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know, just because I had this building on fire for ages, and it kept on like exploding, like these explosions are coming out of it, and I was like, oh, is it gonna collapse or not? But that's all that I could really take a note of from that, apart from, say, just like, you know, the new units and stuff like that. But you couldn't really get a good idea of the new units from that, because you couldn't have any, you know, building sectors or building buildings to build stuff out of. So we moved on into the town, we killed all the guys, we had to move on forward. We had these combat engineers with flamethrowers on them, and they had the really shiny flames coming out of them. They say that they're going to actually still work on the flamethrower graphics a little bit. And all the graphics that we saw was DirectX 9, so it didn't actually reflect the DirectX 11 that the game is going to have. So it's going to even look more amazing, which is...
And it looked very good anyway.
I know, it looked really good already.
It looked like COH1, exactly like COH1.
It looked like COH1, but a little bit better than COH1. So I'm going to say, like, you know, when DirectX 11 comes out, it's going to be like, wow, you know, really good. But yeah, we moved on from the village. We had to go take on another place and defend it with our own Maxim MG. This MG had like 6 guys in the squad.
Tell them about the Russian MG, because it looks great.
Yeah, the Maxim MG is essentially this MG that you can wheel about. It has wheels on the side, and so what that means is that you can actually set it up quicker than the MG42 from the Germans. However, I believe you were saying that like it has like a narrower range.
Yeah,
it has,
it
can shoot
range.
longer. It can shoot longer though, and you know, stuff like that.
And deals more damage. It's pretty much like American MG, but like changed.
Yeah, exactly. And so it has 6 men in the squad. I don't know exactly how this is going to affect the gameplay, but we'll have to.
Probably will.
We'll have to see how that actually works. But we had the Maxim MG, and I think that was the only other unit that we actually, infantry unit that we got to experience in that demo.
Yes.
And eventually what we had to do was they cross over some ice, and of course everyone hearing the whole ice and breaking, we all tried to break the ice, throwing grenades, putting demolition charges.
And then developers were sat down behind us, they were like, oh no, you cannot break it.
Oh no, you can't break it. You can't break it in this demo, alright?
Yeah, not yet.
Not yet. But we actually got to do that in the 2 vs 2 Moscow map, but I'll talk about that in a second. And so we had to move on to capturing this one tank. And so this is where the whole system of abandoned vehicles comes from. What we had to do was capture this T-34 with our units, and it could be essentially any unit. So everyone was some people were talking about like, oh, is it right that we can capture the vehicles with every single unit out there, or should there be specific tank crews? Well, apparently you can capture with any single squad. So we used like a conscript squad, just captured it, got inside, and the T-34 just started shooting away at this Panzer IV, and that was it. It was victory after that. You destroyed the Panzer IV, it was victory. There was no way to lose the actual demo. Like, your guys died, yeah, your guys died, they came back to life, you got a new free squad. The T-34 was actually indestructible. It got down to like 25% health and just wouldn't go farther down like that.
But if you looked at the damage dealt, Panzer IV and T-34 were pretty equal.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it's going to reflect everything in the final version of the game.
Yeah, but it was equal.
Yeah. But that was the demo. And so I don't want to make any conclusions out of it, but I can give you my initial opinions. I like the direction where the game is going. However, it feels a lot like Company of Heroes. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or if that's a bad thing. You could say that if you know Company of Heroes, then you can almost automatically jump into Company of Heroes 2 and play very, very comfortably. But at the same time, is it that you want to jump into a new game and you want to experience a new whole experience? I don't know. But I do like the direction that the game is going, and I guess we might as well talk about what we did on Saturday, right? So that was the Friday. We got to experience the demo. We met with a few other Company of Heroes people, but the majority of people that we met was actually on the Saturday when they came down. We met Razer, Pepsi, who else? Seth. We met some guys from Relic News, Helping Hands, Tommy. Just a variety of these really dedicated people to the Company of Heroes series, and it was really awesome to be able to do that. At the same time, it was really nice to be seeing what looked to be a lot of random people just trying out Company of Heroes 2. Like, obviously, you know, they came to EuroGamer to just try out the various games, but it was nice for them to actually come to try Company of Heroes 2 and then get this beta key given to them, and you know, it's really cool. That just means that the you know, Company of Heroes 2 community is going to have all these new people in it, right?
Yeah, and there was always someone like you said, there was no queue because there was like what, 5 booths, and there was tiny
5 booths,
queue in every booth.
32 computers, and it was just...
Yeah, if there was only like 15 computers, I can imagine there would be a queue. Maybe not as big as Call of Duty, because Call of Duty always got the largest queue, like 2-hour queue.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
always, yeah.
but I don't know. People seem to like it. Like even like girls were coming to play.
Yeah, there's a number of
everyone.
girls. There's a number of girls there. Some were not the best looking. Some were pretty good looking. The booth babes
Some of them were actually pretty good.
The booth babes are absolutely stunning.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they gave out free stuff, so it's even better.
Free stuff, I know. We managed to get actually like everyone who played the demo managed to get a beta key, also a poster and a T-shirt. I think you had to maybe ask for those, but
No. If you wanted T-shirt and all the freebies, you had to ask the Russian girls.
Oh, did you? Oh, okay, I
Yes.
see. Yeah, because I
So
don't...
it's double bonus.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, you had to like ask for it, right? But yeah, we managed to get a T-shirt. We managed to get a few posters. I've got a few in my bag. I've also got loads of beta keys. I managed to snatch up something like 20 beta keys, so that's gonna be plenty to give out to you guys. But let's head on over to Saturday. So once the Friday was done, we headed on up to Company of Heroes 2 again. We just checked out a few different games. I played Black Ops 2 just because I was one of the first people into the EuroGamer that day, and so I was like, okay, go for it.
Screaming and
I know there's like
elbowing
people actually
everyone.
running. There's people running for Black Ops 2. They were that obsessed with it.
Yeah.
I know you guys will be able to see this in the video. But I played Black Ops 2 for a little bit, and yeah, it was okay. Headed on over to Company of Heroes 2 again, and just muddled around that entire day until the evening, where the main events happened. And in the evening, what we got to do was there's two things set up. We got to play the Company of Heroes 2 Moscow map, and then afterwards we went on a dinner with all the people who were invited. So, you know, like Seth and Tommy and everyone else that I was talking about, along with Quinn and Bobby and just, you know, the developers, right? And so what we got to experience in the Moscow map was a more recent version of the game. So it allowed us to experience the game in a fuller light. So what we got to do was play the Moscow map, which is 2 versus 2 versus the AI, and our ally was the AI as well. And what we got to do in this was use all the HQ all the buildings, not all of the units, and we couldn't use the doctrines. So we're actually going to talk a little bit about what we got to see there. I've actually written down some notes. David got to play it, I got to play it. And yeah, I suppose I looked like a little bit of a geek writing down notes here, what I got to see, but I think it was a bit important so we could actually remember the units. So what this Moscow map was, it was just a 2 versus 2, that's all you can say. It was a different map. You actually got to break ice on the game.
Yeah, it was specifically designed to like show every single feature that they were able to implement on the time.
And this Moscow map was actually shown at Gamescom, so it wasn't the actual first time that's been shown. So if you read that Full Time Geek blog, that was essentially what they played as well. But in this Moscow map, it was, 2 versus 2. You could actually break ice, and it was really cool just seeing the ice cracking below your vehicles. Also, just when your Katusha hit the actual ice, it would just, you know, explode, and there'd be craters or holes everywhere in the ice. There was hypothermia, and I guess we'll talk about it right now. When it comes to hypothermia, how do you feel about that, David?
Yeah, I think it's gonna have a large impact because I know that
it'll have a large impact.
It does exactly, because in COH1 you can just rush your squad and go to almost your enemy's base and cut him off like in Langres.
Yeah.
While in COH2, if you do it, fair enough, you can probably do it because they run in the same speed, but there is also snow.
Mm-hmm.
So if you got snow on your way, and you always got, you'll slow down like hell, and it'll take you 5 times as long to get there. Yeah. And in the meantime, blizzard will come over, and the blizzard will make you extremely cold, so eventually start dying on the way. So there is no way that you can make it without a vehicle or cover.
Mm-hmm.
But then I don't think we should talk, if I can talk about it. But there's a few things that you can abuse to like avoid it. I mean, obviously you can just hide in cover, and then if you're in cover, your temperature is not going down. It's like a natural thing. If you're behind a wall, the wind won't be, a problem.
Yeah.
But like anything that gives you cover keeps you from freezing, so you can just use anything and abuse it, and it will probably be balanced in one way or the other. But I think the Blizzard got like really really big impact because let's say you've got an engagement, you cannot just flank because if it's Blizzard on the field, you will just freeze while flanking. So you have to be really wary of that because you freeze pretty quick.
Yeah, you do. I don't know how it's gonna impact the game exactly. Obviously, it's gonna have a huge impact. I'm not sure if it's a good thing though. That's just my initial opinions right now. It's just because what would happen is that you had an on and off setting. Essentially, what would happen is that you would have clear sky, and there would be no hypothermia taken into account, and then you would have a blizzard, and that's when hypothermia would be taken into account.
Yeah, but then it will break the whole balance because like German engineers cannot make campfires.
Okay.
And no, I think I've actually read it somewhere because we didn't get to play German, so we didn't really know. But I didn't even see campfires from AI, and Russians can. So I think it's a huge balance difference, and maybe that's why there is a blizzard.
I can't really say exactly what's happening because what they're going to be doing is actually releasing springtime maps as well. So there's not going to be any blizzard effects on there. But as I was saying, like what would happen is I would take a conscript squad, for example, and I would try to move it from one sector to the another sector to capture that point. And what would happen is that if there's a blizzard, by the time they actually reach the point, there'd be only like half the men in it because they would have just like frozen to death. And so what you'd have to do is just quickly get in cover to prevent any sort of any hypothermia from still settling in, because when you're in cover, it doesn't go up, it doesn't go down, it just stays where it is. And so you'd have to bring like a combat engineer squad to put down a campfire near your guys and get them all back up to speed. But then it also made you realize if you're going to get guys around the field, what you have to do is have shortcomings, like you're going to have to set up somewhere, or you're going to need half tracks. Okay, so for once, you're going to actually have to half track your guys around the field. And so I'm not sure how I feel about it. I mean, obviously, half tracks should have an important role in the game, you're carrying units about. But at the same time, I'm not sure if the whole hypothermia is, if it's like an essential feature of the game or if it feels a little bit unnecessary. This is just, of course, my opinion. But I felt that, it gave a dynamic to the game that wasn't there before, and it made you think about what you're doing. It made you think like, oh, should I actually go for this point?
Yeah.
Will my men survive when they get there? When I'm engaging the enemy, is it actually should I actually go find cover and try to keep my guys nice and warm, or should I keep on engaging the enemy whilst my guys are essentially going to freeze to death? And the enemy's going to have to think about the same thing as well. Am I going to keep my guys there whilst they're pretty much going to be freezing to death, or am I going to try to just draw back and find some sort of cover and keep my guys sheltered until I can find a better time to have an engagement? But yeah, that's what I think about the hypothermia system right now. We got to see exactly what happens out of it because it's not fully completed. There is going to be a lot of balancing when it comes to it in terms of cover and just different sort of things. But yeah, what else do we get to see? We got to see a lot of different units. We got to...
We should talk about snipers.
I think what we'll do is actually we'll go through all the buildings and then we'll mention the units in there and then we'll just talk about them, yeah?
Oh yeah, because you wrote down the...
Yeah, so the notes that I was talking about, we actually got to build down buildings, and we only got to build down Soviet buildings because we didn't actually manage to play the Germans. However, we did a little bit of a sneaky thing. I sneaked a unit into the enemy base, and I actually got to take a look at some of the...
And then they dragged you away.
Buildings that they had, and yeah, then the play session ended. But we'll talk about that in time. What we're going to be talking about right now is the Soviet buildings. So what we actually got to do is, of course, you have an HQ building. So think of that like tier 0. The HQ building, what it had was 3 things in it, from what we got to notice. It had a combat engineer squad, costing 250 manpower. I actually think I'm not going to mention any of the manpowers in this, or the cost.
I think it was just said.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to
for the
mention
same
any of the
value.
resource costs for the units in here because a lot of them are very similar, and I have a feeling that it's going to be changed. So what you could actually do, you could build the combat engineer squad, had 4 guys in it. You could also build conscript squads with 6 guys, and you could also upgrade a healing aura effect from the HQ. So anytime your guys are near the HQ, they could have a healing aura, almost like the Panzer Elite, right? Like the Panzer Elite's defensive operations. So the combat engineers, what they could do, they could upgrade to flamethrower. They could, what else could they do? They could
lay mines, build
lay mines,
sandbags.
build what?
Sandbags.
They could build campfires and stuff like that. They could build more buildings. Conscript squads where you're sort of like your Volksgrenadiers, you know, just like normal infantry. There wasn't anything that much to say about them. They could throw was it anti-tank grenades or anti-personnel grenades? I can't remember now.
I think I don't know, one of them had anti-tank grenades.
I think so. I
think even engineers had anti-tank grenades. Because I know someone was asking Quinn if it's gonna stay.
I think it was anti-tank grenades, because what I noticed is that the Wehrmacht would bring their vehicle forward, like an armored car or something, then I could throw anti-tank grenades from my squads.
Oh yes,
squads
at
at
it. Yeah, I remember.
And so that's what the conscripts and everything were in the HQ, and those units came out directly from the HQ. Now, what was interesting next is that you had a choice between building 2 things. You could build either a force recon building, or you could build a shooting range building. From the force recon building, you could get only snipers. That's the only thing that you could build from it that we noticed. Snipers. And what came from the sniper squad was two infantry, and they weren't affected by hypothermia at all. When it came
that's
to blizzards.
very important, I think. That they are not affected by hypothermia, because I've seen German sniper actually freezing to death.
Freezing to death.
On the field.
Yeah. But they weren't affected by hypothermia at all. They could actually go around. They had something called a flare ability, and I think it's when it's within range. Obviously, it's a bit farther than their actual sight, but they could actually throw down a flare, and that would allow you to see what was in that area. That's what we got to notice. We didn't actually use the snipers all that much, did we? Apparently the others...
No, we built it and they just walked around.
They just walked around. Yeah, people were saying that apparently, like, they have much less accuracy. They're much more inaccurate, and they don't hit their targets as nearly as often as snipers do in Company of Heroes. Now, when it came to the shooting range, you had a few units in that. What we noticed was the Maxim MG, the one that we were talking about a little bit earlier, that could be wheeled about, 6 men in that squad. You had a mortar with 6 men in that squad as well. And you also had a 53K AT gun, which again had 6 men in that squad.
Everything
had 6 men.
And I thought it's OP.
Oh, I don't know. Like maybe they're gonna be strong. I don't know. I'm not sure if the Soviets are gonna have strong units. So I could imagine if there was gonna be balancing. You know, 6 guys in a squad. Maybe they'd be weaker, easier to kill. Who knows, right? But that was the shooting range. It had 3 units in there. So almost from your tier 1, yeah, basically from your tier 1 buildings, you could build anti-tank guns. You could have the Maxim MG. You could have the mortar. When it came, after you built one of those 2 buildings, you could build a light factory, which is essentially like your tier 2 or tier 3 building here. And that contained a few units from that. You could build guards troops, which we didn't actually build. You could build M5 half-track, which allowed you to wield...
Oh, we built guard troops.
Did we?
Yes.
I didn't personally, but you did maybe.
With the capes. Oh yeah, I did.
Was there anything special?
I didn't get to use them. I just built them, and just they stayed in my base because I was playing with tanks.
All right. Okay.
We were really terrible at testing it because we actually kept playing.
Well, there was so much to do. That's the thing. It was like test the game, test all the features of the game. And then test all the units. And we only had an hour to do this, and so it was like, oh, there's so much to do. You could get M5 half track, which allowed you to wheel your guys about. What I noticed was that the German half track, which we actually found an abandoned one on the field, oddly enough, didn't have as much space as the Soviet half track. So maybe that's going to mean some sort of balancing, not exactly sure. You could also build a T-70M from the light factory, which was like a little sort of tank. Think of it almost like a T-17 in a way. And just went around. It was good against light vehicles and also killing infantry. You could also build something, and this is where a question mark comes up, the Su-76M assault gun, because in the description of the light factory, it said you could build the Su-76M. However, you can actually build it in the game. And I have a feeling that this is to do with a bit of doctrines. You weren't actually able to use any doctrines in this demo, because it's not a complete version. But I have a feeling what's going to happen is that if you use a certain doctrine, you're going to be able to use certain units in your buildings. And so that's why we couldn't see the Su-76M. Now, when it comes to the Tier 4 building, the Heavy Factory, you could build even more tanks from that. You could build the T-34, the KV-1, the Su-85, which again has a question mark around it because that depends on doctrines. You could build the Katyusha, I hope I'm saying that right.
I'm not sure if it's Katushka or Katyusha.
I don't know, because it has a Kitty... A-U-Y-U.
Yeah, I mean in Poland we always used to say Katyusha, and I
Katyusha,
think the closest you can get.
Yeah, exactly, right. And you could build that no matter what doctrine you went. And they also had something in the description called Commander-Specific Heavy Tanks. So, again, being Commander-Specific doctrines, whatever, right? We didn't get to see all the tanks in effect, but we did manage to build the T-34 and the KV-1. KV-1 was just like this massive tank. It said that it was slow, but it wasn't that slow. I have a feeling they're probably going to balance that out.
It was like a half track. It was like so fast.
I know, it's quite fast, wasn't it? What was really nice was that the vehicles can easily crush enemy infantry. It's not like...
And they don't slow down.
Yeah, it's not like certain vehicles out there, like the M10 is notorious for crushing enemy vehicles. You have these suicidal men who jump into the treads. It wasn't exactly like that. There was men that tried to get out of the way, but if you were fast enough with your vehicle, you could just crush and plow through infantry squads, right?
It was so satisfying.
Yeah, it was quite nice. T-34 had this really interesting ability. Out of all the tanks, it had something called this ramming ability, and David actually got to use this. It was really funny to see this, but you could use this against enemy vehicles. And what it was, when there was like, they had a Panzer IV, and what David did was he grabbed this ramming ability, he activated it on the enemy vehicle from a distance, and it meant that the T-34 sped up like twice as fast and went plowing into the it plowed right into the front armor of the Panzer IV. It immobilized not only David but also the enemy tank, and also destroyed both turrets. So the Panzer IV turret and also his own turret. I'm not sure if that's going to happen every single time you plow into a vehicle, but you can just imagine the amount of options that are going to open up from this. So say if you have a T-34 that's really low on health, screw it, I'm just going to suicide it and just ram it right into a Panzer IV or something.
Yeah.
Or, for example, if you have a heavy enemy target like a Tiger, for example, then you could just ram your T-34 into it, then close in with other units to take out that Tiger, right? But that was the units that we got to see in the buildings. The buildings weren't much to say, to be honest. They were just like these sort of trenches that were cut into the earth. And
yeah, but we've been told they were unfinished.
Yeah. So they were unfinished,
were they? Say much about it. Yeah, Queen actually said the buildings were unfinished.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
Because he said that you could see that the graphics were a bit rough on them, and they weren't finished, especially the German ones.
Okay. Well, yeah, I thought it looked a little bit funny, just how the buildings looked like. But fair enough. I mean, we actually saw that, didn't we? We actually saw a placeholder. It was like a bunker on the ally side, and it was literally like this box. It was like this graphic box. It was like a gray box, and obviously
and it said MG bunker.
Yeah, obviously something was supposed to replace it, but whatever. Okay. Some other points that we took a note of: vehicle crews can be injured. So what we noticed is that when you attack like a Panzer IV, sometimes it would say like vehicle crew injured or something, or
commander killed.
Yeah, some commander killed. And eventually, if you killed like all the guys in there, then the vehicle would be abandoned. Let's see. We also took a note of easy CPU avoids AT guns. So the AI has definitely improved in this game. A
lot.
Yeah, a lot. This was easy CPU that we were taking on, and it was really surprising for an easy CPU. What they were doing, for example, is that we had an AT gun set up. And obviously in Company of Heroes, you know, a computer wouldn't give a crap. It would just like stay there and pretty much get killed. Maybe it would retreat or something, I don't know. But what what the enemy tank was doing, the Panzer IV, was that he was actually coming around the AT gun. And so when you...
Yeah, he was going behind it and he was crushing my crew.
The crew, right? And then you'd move your AT gun around to swivel it around, and then the Panzer IV would again start flanking around it. Yeah, exactly. So it's a really smart things that they're doing with the AI here, and a great improvement of what they're actually doing. So I'm really happy in terms of that. Breaking the ice looks really nice. Katyusha looks very nice as well. But we didn't really get to experience many of the doctrine abilities. We only got to try the Sturmovik, which was this plane in the sky which could kill infantry in this specific area. That's the only thing that we actually got to try. But apart from that, we got to play the play session. I went to the Wehrmacht base and didn't really see that much because that's when the play session was just about to be ending. And I did get to see a few buildings. Like I saw this one building which was essentially like T1 of the Wehrmacht and T2 of the Wehrmacht combined. So the Wehrmacht quarters and the Krieg barracks, basically everything in that was in one. And I was like, wow, that's a lot of units for one building, but okay. There was also some other buildings which they were talking about building Panzer IV from, Bombar, oddly enough, and also the Panther. There's another building which you could build a Stug out of, and that's all I got to see. There was a bit more to it, but I couldn't actually read it because the play session ended there. But after that, we went to go have dinner with Quinn, and oh my god, this is going to turn out to be a long video, isn't it?
Yeah,
a long podcast.
I have to wait until we actually...
But that's fair enough. I mean, there's a lot to talk about here. There's a lot to talk about.
A lot, yeah.
Yeah, so...
Quinn lost his voice.
Yeah, exactly. We went to dinner, and my god, we were trying to have casual conversations, but there were so many questions being thrown at Quinn and such, and I feel a little bit sorry for Quinn because he was actually losing his voice, and you could tell, like, you know, he was just trying to have a good time with us, but man, the questions were just coming down, and
yeah, raining.
Yeah, they're just raining down one question after the other. But I managed to write about a page of questions that you guys wanted to ask, and funnily enough, I only asked about probably 3 of them.
Yeah.
Because simply put, a lot of them had an NDA behind them. A lot of them were just, you know, you could probably answer them yourself. And yeah, I mean, I'll go through the list of questions right now. Like, for example, what can be bought from currency? He couldn't talk about it. He couldn't talk about it. You know, the XP unit, the XP bonuses, and the units and stuff like that. Couldn't talk about it. I mean, to be honest, David and I and the other guys could actually maybe mention something because we saw something at the demo. People were actually accessing the menus when they weren't supposed to. So we could actually maybe mention something there, but we're not going to because there's probably an NDA behind it. Unfortunately, we were not going to be able to expand on that. We actually saw pieces of the game menu that people weren't meant to see.
Yeah, but we asked specifically about if it's pay to win. So,
yeah, like what we can mention here is pay to win, and Quinn actually shot that down. Quinn was saying pay to win, absolutely not. Any sort of in-game currency is not going to be going towards giving you an unfair advantage. Not at all. Yeah. Don't even think it. Don't even say like, oh, in-game currency is going to be.
And Queens, they were like, no.
No, it was like, oh, in-game currency, you know, unfair balance. You're going to be paid to win. Absolutely not. No way in hell. If anything, it's probably just going to be towards like aesthetics, like, you know, DLC, skins and whatnot, right? Let's see. There was a few other questions, like, you know, is the replay system going to be improved? I have a feeling I'm not going to be able to actually talk about that. Will there be a world map? Won't be able to talk about that. Anti-blob stuff. I think he mentioned some stuff about anti-blobs, right?
Yes, he said he don't like it. And he said, he actually specifically said that in COH1, at the beginning, before the last patch, they had much higher anti-blob measures, like the MG damage. And they said they still have this whole system available, and they will look at it. That's what he said.
Right.
So they're not ignoring it, because Quinn himself is playing a lot. He doesn't like blobbers. He doesn't like all the silly stuff that you don't like. And he's really looking on balancing it. So it's not like they're ignoring it. They play the game themselves. They know the problems, and they want to fix it all. Up to their, like, you know, engine abilities, I think.
You can think of Quinn, like, he is actually the heart and soul of Company of Heroes. He's the game director of Company of Heroes. This is like his baby project, and he knows like all these things that, you know, the nicks and knacks of Company of Heroes that we don't really enjoy, the anti-blob stuff. What else? I know there's tons of different things that came to mind. I can't think of it right now, but he knows all of these sort of like complaints, and he's the one that's coming up with these new ideas, like the new veterancy system, the new I don't know, anti-blob, whatever. The snipers, for example, you know, snipers was a big complaint. He's a, you know, brainchild behind that as well. And
he's actually very passionate about it, because he said he read 20 and something books. He went to Russia. he, I don't know, they were staying in London, and he actually all he wanted to do is go to the Imperial War Museum. So he's like very passionate about it, and even when he talks, you can actually see he's very into it. It's not just a game; it's like he's. It looks like it's his life.
Exactly. Well, it is his life. It is his project. He's the
Yeah,
game director, and that's respect to him. If anything, you can think that Company of Heroes 2 is in good hands. I mean, it's in the hands of the person who made Company of Heroes, the game that we enjoyed so much. So I think that's all we can really speak about, because there
hmm
was actually a lot of stuff that they told us, but just simply
we
put,
don't
guys,
know
I mean,
what we can tell.
we can't tell you, we can't bring these things out because there is an NDA. There is a certain amount of trust between us and the game developers. If we broke that trust, fair enough, you guys would be happy, but at the same time, that would probably mean an end to seeing anything else in the future, right? Yeah, and to Krebs Cohen. No, I wouldn't. Yeah, I don't know actually. Maybe be an end to my support of me. So, hope you guys can understand that. But you can rest assured that the game is going in the right direction. There's a lot of improvements. It is an evolution of Company of Heroes. There's one thing I do want to say is like my final opinions. I'm not going to base any conclusions off of the both demos because again they're not completed versions of the game. My final opinions though, based off of all of this, is that yeah, it is an improvement on the game, but we have to see what is going to come out of it, okay? Because as I was saying, you couldn't build all the units, you couldn't try the doctrines, you couldn't try
It was
anything else.
unbalanced.
You couldn't, if there's unbalances, um, the graphics weren't the maximum, and so you can't base a conclusion off of just these demos, right? So I think that pretty much summarizes everything that we got to see. The dinner was really nice. We got to meet so many different people. I've got these beta keys to give out now. And yeah, overall, I would say EuroGamer was a positive experience. We had beers with Bobby. Bobby was such a cool guy, really relaxed, and
Yeah,
um,
he was great.
you know what? I was just really happy to meet everyone down there. I'm surprised that some people are so dedicated to Company of Heroes, but I guess
hmm
such things actually exist. These people are really looking forward to Company of Heroes 2. And so, yeah, I guess we'll have to see what comes out of it. I'll be giving away beta keys in the near future, probably like one pretty much every single day. Because I've got tons of these things to give away, and hopefully the beta will be starting up soon. Again, something I actually can't mention when it's going to be starting, but hopefully it will be starting up soon. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And that's all we can say at the moment. So, any closing thoughts, David?
Yeah, the closing thought would be that Combat of Heroes is in really good hands because Queen's is passionate, and then Bobby is passionate about the building community, making it grow and taking care of it. You can actually see when you talk to. I wish we could like interview them for a short moment, just talk to them so people can see what they're like great people.
Yeah, I wish
So
you
I
guys.
think,
I wish you guys could have been down there. Having a
yeah,
beer with Bobby or Quinn, and just seeing. Yeah, they're really into the game. This is their child, and they're just trying to make the most out of it. They're not trying to ruin it with like microtransactions and giving you unfair advantages and stuff like that. So just rest assured that everything is going to be okay. And if you're looking forward to pre-ordering the game, then probably don't worry about it. Just go for it. Pre-order the game, and you should be all right. All right. Okay, so until next time, guys, I think that pretty much summarizes everything. Until next time, well, I guess we'll see you all later. Bye-bye.